Once all living things worshipped him. That was long ago when beasts and men spoke one language. Men have forgotten him. Even the beasts forget. Only a few remember. The men who remember Jhebbal Sag, and the beasts who remember are brothers and speak the same tongue. Hey everyone, Yoistin here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in the Hyborian Age. Today we are looking at the god Jhebbal Sag, the wild god, worshipped by shamans and werewolves, all wild manners of creatures that remember him. Sources will be in the description and cards. My friends, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Let's begin our tale. Alright, so let's take a look at Jhebbal Sag's role and nature. He is one of the oldest and most primal gods in the lore of Conan the Barbarian, and while he is definitely not mentioned often, he is considered to be the lord of beasts, the master of all wild creatures, a deity worshipped before men and animals were actually fully divided. There must have been a time in ancient history when, yes, they spoke the same language, where men were more barbaric, and yes, he was probably at his prime, at least as a worshipped god back then. But now he is a forgotten, half-feral power of the deep wilderness. To me, he definitely seems similar to the Elder Scrolls god Hircine, who bestows lycanthropy and takes souls to his immortal hunting grounds. However, Jhebbal Sag does not only seem to be a werewolf god, but broader than that. He's a god who's worshipped by the more chaotic and crazed side of nature as well. In Howard's mythos, he represents the ancient time when humans and beasts shared this universal language, and as that bond weakened, so too did his dominion. People who remember his rites can still call on the old tongue, summoning or commanding animals that acknowledge him. And again, he's not a civilization god, with his worship being the strongest in especially jungles and swamps, and amongst primitive peoples, shamans, werebeasts, and wild tribes of people. To me, this also invokes some druidic ideas, as his chosen, such as Jhebbal Sag, a shaman leader, can speak the primal language of beasts and command animals, such as wolves and serpents and swamp monsters, giant predators, forest spirits. Again, kind of just like a druid in many myths would be able to do. Many animals do obey this, because many do remember the ancient pact with Jhebbal Sag, and again, being able to hear their language come from his champions and his chosen ones would be a very powerful thing. Now, Howard shows that devotees who go deep enough into his worship, again, they shed civilization altogether, they take on these beast-like traits, and so they begin to become more animal and barbaric in nature. And in some ways, they, as natural as they are, they're so barbaric in some ways that they almost don't seem natural and just seem wild and chaotic in many ways. And so, again, werebeasts, spectral predators, wolves, and so on and so forth. So mostly this character appears, beyond the other adaptations like Conan Exiles, in the story Beyond the Black River, and Conan explains that he was once a lost god who was once worshipped by both men and animals. The antagonist in the tale is the devoted priest of Jhebbal Sag. We know more about his powers, this ancient tongue, and so forth, as well as Conan noting that someone with a trace of wild blood can perceive or resist such powers. And so many of Jhebbal Sag's worshippers are actually descended from the loins of Jhebbal himself, with these beasts and people of the tribes coming from the Pictish wilds and wilderness, as well as the Black Kingdoms. And so, while this cult is nearly forgotten, and again, faded into nature and so forth, remnants persist in the deep parts of the wilderness. And so, even the comics kind of mention these visual depictions of bestial spirits, jungle gods, and perhaps rituals to Jhebbal Sag as well. And for civilized folk, obviously Jhebbal Sag would be this kind of nightmarish legend, nature's wrath, and proof that the wild might hate civilization. The symbol of Jhebbal Sag is a mystic rune, and so there you go. He seems to be in many ways, again, maybe more active than something like Crom, but he's definitely still a bit of a symbol of the hunt, predatory instinct, all of this kind of stuff. The ancient bond between man and beast, wilderness before and during and around civilization, and so forth. So, again, kind of like Crom being a symbol for strength, he is perhaps even a tiny bit more active than Crom, but not by much, this symbol of the wild, and this perhaps chaotic, sometimes evil side of the primordial cults that are untouched by civilization, being one of, at least his champion being one of Conan's main enemies. So, from this tale, we see that the spirit of nature must be acknowledged, perhaps sometimes even feared. Thank you all so much for watching another Masters of Mythology video. Again, I'm having fun exploring this Conan mythology and its different types of stories and the gods and all of that kind of stuff. So let me know what you'd like to see next, whether it's Conan or something else. I'm having a blast. So my friends, thank you all for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.